giving me this privilege of celebrating Mass here today on St. Gonzaga Day, but it also to be able to give my granddaughter Lucy her First Communion. Now, I have been able to give First Communion and baptize some of my grandchildren. Nora, I baptized her, and I gave her her First Communion in Sicily, where I was the contracted priest at NAS Sigonella for 10 years. They were able to go, I forgot what the year it was, 2015, 2016. And Aaron, I was able to give him his First Communion here in 2019 or 2020, I think it was January. So it's a great blessing for me to be with you today, and especially to be with Lucy. So I'm going to talk to Lucy. You guys can listen in, okay? When we look at the saints, but especially when I think of St. Gonzaga, he had a one-track mind, and that is he sought to do the will of God. That was his desire. He sought to do what the gospel reading says, that Jesus says in the Sermon on the Mount. Store up treasure in heaven. Don't store up treasure where moth will eat away or it will be rusted or anything like that. He came from a very wealthy family. His father wanted him to be a soldier, wanted him to be in the military, but his desire was to do the will of God. And he came to that conclusion at a very early age that God was leading him to become a religious. So he actually gave away his birthright or inheritance. He had no desire for that, and he became a novice with the Jesuits. Now, St. Gonzaga only lived to the age of 23, and I would imagine that some people would think, wow, what a wasted life. 23 years old, but St. Gonzaga would not have looked at it that way. You see, he had one desire, Lucy, and this should be your one desire for your life, to do the will of God. And so we need to follow, you need to follow St. Gonzaga's example. How did he know the will of God? Well, God didn't send him an email. He didn't send him a text message. They didn't have any of those things back then, and God doesn't work that way now. How do we know the will of God? Well, we pray. We pray and we ask every day, Lord, show me your will. The way I pray it is, Lord, give me wisdom to know your will and grace to do your will, like our Mother Mary. And so that's what St. Gonzaga did. Now, how did he die? Well, there was a plague in Rome, the city of Rome. And you know, or maybe you don't know, but Yaya and I, we have been to Rome many times. We live very close to Rome, and so Rome is one of our favorite places to go. But there was a plague, there was a bad sickness, and people were dying in the streets. And so the Jesuits, which is a religious order, they set up a hospital. And St. Gonzaga went and cared for the sick. And that's how he died. He did not care whether or not he got sick. He was courageous, and he sought to show them love and care by picking them up. And sometimes I've read that sometimes he would even carry the sick people to the hospital, and he would cleanse their wounds and care for them and feed them. And that's how he died. So the question could be, how in the world could a young man have such courage and determination to show such love for the sick? I read that at one point he even confessed how difficult it was because the people were very sick. They didn't look well at all. Maybe they smelled bad, but he cared for them. He had the courage to care for them, and he gave his life. He became sick like that. They did, and that's how he died. He believed that was God's will for him. But how was it that he, this young man, had the courage and the love and the grace to do the will of God by caring for the sick even to the point of giving his own life. You know, doing the will of God isn't always easy, but it's the best thing that we can. That's why we're here. That's why we're here on earth, to do the will of God. Doesn't mean it will be easy at all times. It wasn't easy for St. Gonzaga, but he did the will of God. What possessed him? What gave him the power to do such a difficult job? It was Jesus. It was Jesus in the Holy Eucharist. You see, it's Jesus that empowers us with what we call grace. We receive his grace through the sacraments, through the grace of baptism that you have received, and now through the Holy Eucharist. That's one of the purposes of the Holy Eucharist. When you receive Jesus in his body and blood, he gives you grace to become the woman he is calling you to be, and to do his will, to do whatever his will might be. It might be something very difficult, like being a mom. Moms, is it difficult being a mother? And all the moms are saying, yes. You need supernatural power to do the will of God, whatever that might be. St. Gonzaga was empowered by the grace of God through the sacraments, especially the sacrament of the Holy Eucharist. That's what Jesus gave him, that power, that ability to care for those sick people, even to the point where he didn't care about himself, but he gave his life for those sick people. Do you know the cartoon Popeye? Do you know the cartoon Popeye? I know your brothers probably. Well, your brothers probably could answer this question. What was it that gave Popeye strength and power? The spinach, right. So I often say this to our First Communion classes. The spinach is like the sacrament, the Blessed Sacrament. It empowers us. He empowers us. It's not a thing, it's a he. Jesus empowers us to do his will. We need Jesus in the Holy Eucharist. And I've told people before too, why is it that we celebrate daily Mass? It's because I need it. I need the grace and power that Christ gives us in the sacrament to be the priest and the father, and in my case, the husband and the papa that I'm called to be. I need his strength. I need his grace. Maybe that's the problem with some professing Catholics in the church, that they don't even see the need for the sacrament. Maybe they go on Sunday just to tick the box because they know they're supposed to. Some don't even come to Mass on Sundays. Maybe it's because they don't recognize that they need Jesus. Maybe that's part of the problem. So if we can become people, Lucy, that see what Jesus does for us, what he gives us in the Holy Eucharist, then maybe we will be more committed to him and committed to coming to Mass and participating. So, two things I want you to take away from this homily. Number one, pray for God's will for your life. St. Gonzaga did that. Pray for God's will, and then receive the grace and power to do what God's calling you to do in the Blessed Sacrament. Jesus will come and give you his body and blood, and that will give you the grace and the power to do his will.